sometimes we get a false negative on someone's quality of work because they're really fast. And so you go, oh man, this person's good. And maybe in the beginning they're good because they flared up. Like you say, wow, this person's really busting it out and getting things done, until you see that you have to go back 3 times to fix things that they messed with, which means every time you have to go back, that's a more expensive, as if someone just did the thing slowly. Even 3 times less, it's less expensive. Or
right.
3 times less fast, it's less expensive.
Yeah.
So I think we've got to look at a balance between those things. And the Marines are pretty famous for saying slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Under pressure, in the moment of doing something, it isn't, and it's not about being slow, it's about being consistent and steady in the way you do something.
Welcome back to the Culture Base podcast. I'm Dustin. He's Blake. We're the Culture Base, and we're here to help leaders know what they're about, show where they're going, and develop a scalable team to get them there. And that's what this podcast, or all podcast episodes, are about. We are in part 3 of a 10-part series right now on the A culture, or the A player culture. We're calling it the A culture series. And today we're going to dive into the quality of work. But before we get into that, I want to remind you that you can find us at theculturebase.com and on social media at theculturebase, BASE. All right, let's get into today's episode, part 3 of the A culture series, talking about this idea of the quality of work. I want to set this up too, Blake. We've mentioned in past episodes in this series already. If you've missed parts 1 and 2, go back and listen to those. We've talked about, I think I have it on the screen here. We've talked about accountability for action. We talked about reliability, and today we're going to talk about quality of work. And all of those, Blake, fall into this kind of subcategory that we've labeled as, these are the competency markers, right? These are the things that are like at the top of the list. These rocks don't move, kind of like have to have these to have an A player and to build an A player culture. So, Blake, can you walk through competency, what that means, and kind of what the rest of these subcategories are for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So competency, like Dustin was saying, competency is like the top 3. You generally have a person who is not an A player when people are just striving about how much of a good person they are. And that's it. Right. Like, oh, but John's a really nice person. And it's like, yeah, he's a nice person, but he's not doing his job. And so when you end up running into those issues, they tend to be the competency issues. And so don't get me wrong. Even if someone scores,
John's great.
Yeah, John's great. Even if you score in the top 3 on competency really high, being an A-hole is going to definitely bring you down, okay, on being a good A player.
That's our next series. The A-hole culture.
The A-hole culture. That's hilarious. But this is like what we look at in competency is the ability to understand these 3 things first. So all of this A culture, we'll dig into more. This is like the right seat. We talk about right person, right seat. What we're trying to identify with A player is right seat. Okay. Right person definitely is there in little nuances, but there are other tools to help flesh out whether someone's a right person culturally or whether the rest of the team even thinks they're a right person. So what we're trying to do is understand competency. So are they reliable? Like when they, not just do they show up on time or are they there every day, but like when they're there, who are they? And then the accountability, we talk about accountable for actions, but really it's accountable for results. They are just dead set on making sure the result happens. And if it doesn't, they're thinking, how do I get better? How do I help the team strive to get better here? And the one we're going to talk about today is quality of work. So before we dive into that though, these competency, before I think we talked about competency, character, curiosity, our team actually dove in a little deeper because we needed a way to flesh out some of the other attributes a little more clearly. And so competency still stays. Like this is just, you've got to be competent at the role you're doing. The next one is drive and agency. So this is taking initiative and continuous improvement. Drive and agency absolutely are a part of an A player. Then we've got agility, and that's problem solving and adaptability. The next one we have is collaboration, which is teamwork and communication. And the last one is leadership, which in a lot of ways is more of it's almost like a multiplier. That leadership on top of these things really expounds, like leadership and accountable for actions really expounds accountable for actions. Yeah. And so, I wanted to hit that at a high level first before we kind of dove into this one, because we're going to start diving into those other areas. For sure. But go ahead.
I'll say before we dive into quality too, just to kind of set the scene of this A Culture series a little bit more, we talk about having the right people on the bus and having the right seats available for those people on the bus, like clearly defined seats on the bus, right? Like, I think what we're trying to just use that bus analogy, it came to me as we were talking, like the difference in how you approach these 10 areas is the difference between taking a mega bus across country versus a $1 million artist tour bus, right? With bunks and leather couches and gaming systems and full kitchens and stuff like that, versus a mega bus where you're just having to get through it. One you have to survive, and the other one you thrive in. And so that's what we're talking about here when we talk about this A Culture series. So Blake, why don't you kind of kick us off on this quality of work thing? How does quality kind of differ throughout roles and industries?
Yeah, quality is going to have whatever, like, before I even get into that, I think it's important to know that if you don't have a clear job description, you don't have a clear definer, and you don't have a clear way to gauge whether someone has quality of work outside of your gut, which is also outside of your subconscious, like, oh, this is what the job description is. And the way you get people into that position and have a success hit rate there is you get lucky. Okay, well, that's not what we're about. Lucky is not scalable in that fashion. Okay. So what we've got to be able to do is have clear standards to know what are the top 3 things that make up this role, and what are the standards of which you're like, man, an A player looks like someone who does this, this, and this, and don't have 30. That's not realistic. Have like the top 3 to 5 things that are just like, here are the top 3 things that make up what this role is. You hit these top 5 though, that's an A player. So that you're able to see what that is. A lot of times quality, and by the way, I'm not going to be able to define this for every role here or every industry. A lot of times though, some of the commonalities that we have are speed and quality standards. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of times someone is good at their job if they have a speed aspect or if they have a quality aspect. And sorry, I've got some guy mowing outside my. It's like pouring right now. I don't understand what's happening.
Pouring rain, and he's mowing grass.
Pouring rain right now. And
what do you think his quality of work is?
I don't know. Because there is a speed thing that's happening right now.
Yeah,
but quality, I'm not sure, because I know what happens when you mow in the rain and it doesn't go well. So, anyway, I apologize. But I think understanding the relationship between those things, and sometimes we get a false negative on someone's quality of work because they're really fast. And so you go, oh man, this person's good. And maybe in the beginning they're good because they flared up. Like you say, wow, this person's really busting it out and getting things done, until you see that you have to go back 3 times to fix things that they messed with, which means every time you have to go back, that's a more expensive, as if someone just did the thing slowly. Even 3 times less, it's less expensive, or 3 times less fast, it's less expensive. Yeah. So I think we've got to look at a balance between those things. And the Marines are pretty famous for saying slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Under pressure, in the moment of doing something, it isn't, and it's not about being slow. It's about being consistent and steady in the way you do something. And a lot of times, especially in younger generations, we have a tendency to want to master something before we understand its parts and the elementary aspects of it. And so an A player is someone who can sit and say, hey, I take the basketball analogy. Hey, I need to be able to shoot in such a way and have good form in which I can hit a 5-foot jumper. 5 foot's not that impressive. But a lot of times B players want to look like A players by standing outside the arc and just throwing the ball however they can get it to the rim. But they're not learning mechanics. They're not learning the quality of which makes someone consistent at making a shot like that. Mm-hmm. And so then you can't do that same chuck it over your shoulder mindset from 30 foot that you can at 5 foot. You end up chucking it over the rim. So it's just understanding is this really someone who's fast at what they do because they've mastered the elementary principles? Or is this someone who's just trying to show that they look like an A player? Yeah. And man, I can be guilty of that one, especially when I try to learn things new. You know, you've learned things at a certain level and then you're like, man, why is this taking a long time for me to learn this? And so you try to like cheat the system. That's not quality. Like that's not quality in starting to understand something.
Right. Yeah. When we talk about the relationship just from speed or between speed and quality, I always think about Chick-fil-A because Chick-fil-A is typically known for both. They're typically known for speed and quality. Like you're going to get your stuff fast. In fact, we're going to get your order before you ever even get to the window. Like, you know what I mean? Like we're going to get your order early. And by the time you get up here, it's going to be waiting on you and out you go. Now, I will say for some reason, I live in the state of Georgia, home of Chick-fil-A headquarters. For some reason, the worst Chick-fil-A's are in Georgia. And they will always get one of these two right. Now, if it's me, I would rather have quality than speed. Mm-hmm. For sure. Now, I see people losing their mind when things take a long time. And 10 year ago, Dustin probably would have lost his mind too. But to me, I'd rather you get it right the first time, right? Because if the speed factor is there and the quality factor is not there, then by the time we have to go course correct a few times, then speed's out the window anyway. You see what I'm saying? So if we focus only on speed and not on quality, you're actually tripping yourself up. You're actually causing a hazard for yourself to be able to produce that same speed that you're looking for down the road. So the Chick-fil-A's here, the one that I don't go to at all, it's about 20 minutes from us, is they're all speed. And I have never, in the 5 years that I've lived in Georgia, I've never gone to that Chick-fil-A and had an order 100% accurate. But it's the fastest Chick-fil-A around. The fastest Chick-fil-A around. And so you see what, like now that place has a reputation for inaccuracy. Right? Yep. Now that location has that reputation. So the difference is, and what you're looking for here is not only in the person, but in the organization. Do you have a reputation for accuracy? Like the third thing I'll move on to quickly, we've built in through some of our clients that we've worked with where quality was an issue. We've built in some kind of checkpoints into their workflow. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what we've done specifically in like a manufacturing setting of how we focus on quality of work?
Yeah. I've been using this quote probably 100% out of context a lot. And so the quote is, the less sophisticated the focus, the more sophisticated the system. The more sophisticated the focus, the less sophisticated the system. What I've started to take that out of context and do is say that a lot of times when you look at roles and responsibilities inside organizations, the more sophisticated the position, the less sophisticated, or the person, the less sophisticated the system. The less sophisticated the role, the position, the person, the more sophisticated the system you need. And that's a quality mindset, is what do we put in place? How do we put this in place? How do we check this? That is one of those things. And by the way, when I say sophisticated person, I'm not saying value. I'm just saying like the things they've got to do. I think that's important to say here. But when you've got a lot of people who are all over the board in a certain role, you need to have sophisticated systems in place, and sophisticated systems are like a quality check, right? Like it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Like we use this ERP that backends to this place and APIs out. You don't, not that, but like, hey, instead of saying we got a quality check, we say we qualify our quality checks into 5 different tiers. Here are the 5 tiers. When we have an issue, we're going to back brief what happened in that issue. And we're going to identify, was this a tier 1? It happened at this place. Was this a tier 2? It happened at this place. So you're looking at like, it's more sophisticated, not necessarily more technological. And I think that's where it gets misaligned. Implementing those things, crucial, just crucial.
Yeah, and sophistication by definition, by its nature, is refined. Think of anything that is you go, that's really sophisticated. It's sophisticated because it's refined. Apple products, sophisticated. It's refined. It's simple. It's not simple. It's refined, right? They're extremely complex, but they're refined to where it's a repeatable. Yes, every single time we have this, right? So understand that sophistication doesn't mean you have to complicate it. It's actually the opposite. It means you have to refine it and make it as simple as possible. And maybe it's as simple as just saying, hey, we have these 5 tier errors. We have these 5 quality checkpoints, right? That we're going to say, these are the 5 points that we're going to look at for quality every single time. And that's not only in your process of your work, across the board as an organization, but it's also when you're looking at people and you're looking at these seats on the bus, go, hey, the quality of work here is refined, right? It's sophisticated, and that's what we're looking for in the A culture. Moving on, getting close to our time here, Blake. Coaching quality without perfection, without perfectionism paralysis. So basically, what we're talking about here is how do you train up? How do you coach up quality without getting into this perfectionism mentality and everyone is on edge all the time and afraid to do anything wrong? We've talked a lot about on this show before what I think needs to be present more than anything else in quality of work. And this is going to sound counterproductive to our topic for today, but you need to have permission to fail, right? You don't know what we want. Going back to our last point, we were talking about these quality tier errors. We won't know if there was how to classify an error without making the error. Right.
That's right.
So when we learn from failure, right? Failure is hey, that's good. Now we know to look for that from now on. And it's going, and by knowing that and applying that knowledge to our sophisticated and refined system, now we increase our quality of work. You see how that works? So I think permission to fail is pretty big here. Do you have anything on that?
I do. So I'm going to say something, hopefully simply. Quality coaching is not efficient. It's not efficient. Like the idea of slow is smooth, smooth is fast is the idea that when you're increasing your quality in something, take speed out. Yeah. Like that's the idea, and do it well. I remember probably 3 or 4 years back, I wanted to get good at golf. And I've realized as I've talked to hundreds of other people that that's not quick at all. But I wanted to be the exception. And so what I did is every day I would go out and I would buy 100 balls to hit. If you've ever hit 100 balls, you know that's pretty stupid. And so I would go and not practice. I was just cranking. Like as soon as I would hit a ball, I had another ball in place. I didn't even let the other ball hit the ground before I was going in because I thought, oh, I just need to get the reps. I just need to go quicker. That was stupid because one moment I could take 10x the amount of time just taking things slow and learning from what I did and trying to change one thing in quality, not 10 things, because then you don't know what you did and you're not creating consistency. Change one thing, practice that one thing and do it slow. This is what makes the A players and masters and professionals is that they enjoy the practice as much as they enjoy the game. They enjoy the critiquing of their craft as much as they enjoy shoving it down someone's throat on game day.
The process over the product.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm there too. I love the process. By the time I get to the product, I'm bored and I'm like, all right, what's next? So anything else we want to hit on here quality wise before I set us up for this next episode? We're coming up on our time, Blake.
I think a thing, especially as you're looking for people who have quality, like they score high in quality of work, which is really hard. If you're hiring, it's hard to know that outside of reaching out. By the way, and you should do this, calling on references and having their candidate set up a reference call even kind of helps that. But talking to that person or the other person on the other line and asking these questions around quality. But one of the things that's a big definer is looking for pride in someone's work. And so if you hear the person talk about the pride of their work and you hear it in their reference calls that they're like, man, that person just cares so deeply. That's someone who is going to be effective at their quality development, which means they're probably going to score high in that. Maybe not right out the gate because to Dustin's point, part of sophistication, the idea of sophistication is refinement. Refinement takes time. It takes pressure. I mean, if you're refining gold, you're legitimately burning out the dross inside gold. And so that's refinement. It takes time. It takes pain. But some people will never get to the point. They just burn off a little dross and they're like, I'm perfect. You're like, no, you're not. Like, we got more. These are people who will care about the process.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yes, that's quality of work, and that's our last one in the competency kind of subcategory. Next week, we're going to get into the subcategory of drive and agency, specifically on taking initiative. This is a big factor in creating an A culture, and so we will discuss that with you next week on the Culture Base Podcast. Have a great week.